Welcome to this week's edition of The Scots in Us. I'm Camilla Hellman, and I'm delighted you're with us as we join in conversation the National Museums of Scotland to learn about a new exhibit about to open, Beyond the Little Black Dress. And then we journey across to the Old Town and we visit with Dovecot Studios to hear of the history and all that is going on around Dovecot Studios and their upcoming exhibits. And so without more ado, let's join the National Museums of Scotland. Good morning, and I am so glad that we're able to join the National Museums of Scotland for a conversation today as part of our Scots in Us series. We're going to be joined today by Georgiana Ripley, who is, now I must get this correct, the principal curator of modern and contemporary design, specializing in textiles from 1850 to today. So she is the expert to speak to us about the wonderful new exhibit that will be opening on July 1st, which is Beyond the Little Black Dress. So Georgiana, good morning, and thank you for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you very much for having me.
Well, Georgiana, we have not spoken to the National Museums of Scotland. I'm sorry, since we began doing our podcast, we're very overdue for doing it, because you are a wonderful, for want of a better word, conglomerate of museums. I mean, you cover so many different things as the National Museums of Scotland. So could you give us a short introduction to what that's all about? And then we can talk about this wonderful new exhibit that's going to be coming up.
So as a museums group, we're one of the leading groups in the UK and Europe. So we care for collections covering the past and present of Scotland, as well as other nations and cultures and the natural world. And it's our mission to preserve, interpret, and make them accessible for all. And the actual National Museum of Scotland, which is one of our sites, and it's the main site that I work in at Chambers Street in the heart of Edinburgh, that brings together the history of Scotland, the wonders of nature and diverse cultures, as well as game-changing scientific breakthroughs and art, design and fashion from across the centuries. So really what I'm saying here is it's multidisciplinary. We've got over 20,000 objects on display in that building, but we have more than 12 million objects in our collections as a whole. So we have a lot of them in storage at the National Museum's Collection Centre.
So, and in August, Edinburgh is the cultural centre of the world. And you know, there's no other way of putting it. There's so many wonderful festivals going on, covering all different disciplines, not only theatre and music, but art plays a huge part. And you have this wonderful exhibit that will be taking place, so that if people are travelling between July and and October, isn't it? They're going to be able to see the Beyond the Little Black Dress, with this iconic piece. I love the quote that I read about Coco Chanel in 1925, you know, around the ultimate piece. But why don't you tell us how this all came together and what inspired you to take forward this wonderful exhibit?
Yeah, so I think just to kind of reference some of what you've just said there, this exhibition will be part of Edinburgh Art Festival, which is part of the overall festival programming that happens in the month of August. And we will be running until the 29th of October. So there's plenty of opportunity for people to come and visit. The exhibition has been in development for quite some time, because we'd originally intended to open it in 2020, but with, of course, the COVID-19 pandemic, we had to make the decision to postpone it, and we chose to postpone it for a good period of time. So originally what we were thinking was we had opened our new fashion gallery in 2016, and that was part of a multi-million-pound refurbishment that had been ongoing over the course of 15 years. And that had really sort of put fashion on the map a little bit at the museum for us. So we had this amazing collection. We have one of the largest fashion and textile collections in the UK, but I think maybe less associated with that because we didn't have it out so much on display. So we'd made this commitment to wanting to put fashion as more of a fixture on our temporary exhibition program and to build some momentum around that. But we're also thinking about, who is our audience for fashion and what's a good kind of relatable starting point for people who might be less familiar with fashion in museum collections, but also thinking about we have this huge international audience because we have people coming for the festival every year. So fashion is a great way in for visitors because it's something we all have to wear clothes, it's something we can all relate to. And of course, this garment being one of the most classic, it's something that's an easy thing for people to understand, to maybe latch onto. And so that's really where we kind of thought we liked this as a topic to explore. And because there is, as you've referenced, this lovely dress by Coco Chanel from 1926, where she had designed other black dresses prior to this date, but it's picked up by American Vogue and called the frock that all the world will wear, and compared, I think, importantly, compared to Ford's Model T motor car. So it's this idea of this mass production of fashion for the masses, so it's really saying something about this shift that's happening within our culture. And of course, it's really not that straightforward. We cannot reduce the entire story of the little black dress to this one sort of origin story, but it does give us a natural starting point for the exhibition. And, we are now close to, therefore, a century of this garment being seen as this very important piece of fashion history. So it seemed a timely moment to address that. But also, with everything that's going on in the world and with everything that's happened with the pandemic, there's a lot of bigger issues that fashion's really been under the spotlight for. So things like sustainability and the climate crisis. And this is a really great garment as a way to look at a century of social change, really, and to look at how fashion is itself a mirror of society. And it's enabled us to kind of think about what is the state of fashion in the present day, what's the future of this garment, which has been such a staple of our wardrobes for so long, but does it have the same role for us, and what will it have moving forward?
And the other thing that is, it was this wonderful staple. Very, you could wear it anywhere, do anything with it, was how this sort of started. But now, if you're rather avant-garde and arty, you will create a little black dress that has flounces and layers and frills and is an expression of you as a black dress, of your black dress. That's what you see with the designers. So it hasn't stayed as it started. It's evolved in such a wonderful way in so many different forms.
So, yes, one thing that we are really excited to explore in this exhibition is exactly what you said, the fact that it really is this blank canvas for projecting identity and cultural meaning. It is this, there's a lovely quote actually from Hamish Bowles, so formerly editor for US Vogue, when I interviewed him for the accompanying book, and I asked him what he thought about the little black dress and what's the secret to it. And he talked about it being this foil to persona, and particularly to the coruscating persona of someone like Coco Chanel. And that's always really stayed with me, because I think that's such a lovely way of thinking about it. But it's also, because it is this very stark silhouette, it really does show you how fashions have changed over time, but also enables you to add, exactly as you've said, your own sense of self-expression to that, whether you want to embellish it or whether it's all in the sort of cuts, the textures, the decoration, the way in which we style it. Of course, it's ripe for myriad ways of styling.
So which piece, if you were to pick out, sorry to put you on the spot, if you were to pick out like your top 2 or 3 pieces in the show, what would they be?
Oh, yes, okay, so we are in the middle of installing it at the moment, and every time I see a new one on its mannequin and put into position, that becomes my new favorite. But we do have an absolutely fantastic piece on loan to us from the Metropolitan Museum of Art. So we have a coat dress by Yohji Yamamoto with this absolutely incredible bustle on the back of it. And I absolutely love it because it's this exploration that he did. He had a very sort of historicist spirit to him. So it's very almost sort of Edwardian, Victorian in terms of the lines of the coat. But this bustle really splays out and actually can open up in the middle. And so in a way, it's this playful subversion of Victorian dress codes. But it also references within that this kind of Japanese philosophy of dress, where there's a lot of the elegance of clothing as the elegance as seen from the back.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of different references that play into that, and it also sits within this wider theme of shades of black, where we talk about particularly these Japanese designers and how they're able to play with the kind of the different shades of black, literally the complex color palette that is created by creating texture within fabric. And so all this sort of gorgeous tulle in the bustle really does create this completely different play of light. And, you know, all the colors in that case look different, but we are looking at black garments within the same case. We also have a piece that's really close to my heart is a piece that's from our own collection, which is by the designer Elsa Schiaparelli. And she's so famous for this, you know, her surrealist collaborations in the 1930s, for really witty embellishments. Her signature color is called shocking pink. But what people know less is that she actually created like beautiful, really understated little black dresses. And she was very prolific in doing so. And she says that within her own biography, that most of her customers were these ultra smart, more conservative women. And the dress that we have by her from about 1939 was actually belonging to this originally American socialite who'd moved over to Europe. And she married a Highland clan chief and became, so she's called Frances Farquharson. She married this laird of Invercold. And she was just a bit of a local heroine, if you like, a dazzling society hostess and very good friends with Elsa Schiaparelli. So there's a lovely story too behind who wore that piece, as well as just it being this really beautiful dress.
But also, I loved some of the accessories that go with the little black dress. It's no longer just a stiletto. I mean, they're fabulous big work boots in some and different things. And so are there a lot of accessories as well?
There aren't a lot of accessories, but they are there where they are so integral to the outfit. So we also do have a little focus on accessories at the very start of the exhibition, where we're covering this idea, we call it well-mannered black. We talk about the kind of etiquette of when you wore black. So looking very much at the cocktail hour and the importance when you were getting dressed for the cocktail hour of having your jewels, but also having the right hat and having the right pair of gloves, whether they were white, whether they were black, whether they were elbow length or wrist length, you know, all of these different factors came into play. So we covered that a little bit there. But elsewhere, it's where really sometimes it's very much about how a designer puts a whole look together. And so how something comes down a catwalk, and that's particularly true with these contemporary pieces, it's really all in this collective styling. And so a good example of that is a loan that we have from the British designer Gareth Pugh, which is a dress made from, well, it's embellished with black plastic drinking straws. And I've put that in this section where we're talking about the cocktail hour, because it's this really sort of punk gothic ensemble with these very sort of, well, punk and goth boots. They're these kind of black, shiny PVC leather boots. And then there's a really stiff sort of collar on this dress, but the rest of the dress is really mimicking the hourglass silhouette of Christian Dior's fashions post-Second World War. So it's got this almost this very classic silhouette, but then it's got this styling that turns it into something else entirely. And then these really, really long gloves that go sort of right up to the armpit. So it really mirrors the way that you would have styled yourself for the cocktail hour, but in this very contemporary, very cutting edge way.
And what I did notice is that everybody who wants to come along and see this, they do need to book.
So we prefer people to book in advance, and this is something that a lot of museums took on with the pandemic when we needed to control visitor numbers. And actually it just works really well for us in terms of being able to do exactly that, to maximize that visitor experience and to keep that sort of movement of people through the space. It's very easy to just do that on our website, and there's no extra cost involved, so you just book online.
So they really can, it won't be overcrowded. It will mean that they will have a fabulous experience and be able to really take it in. So there's a lot of pluses to this. And you mentioned that there's a book coming. Is that going to be out at the same time?
Yes, so the book is already available on our website and we'll be selling it in our museum shop. And once the exhibition is open, it will also be available via sites like Amazon. And that is a series of essays that I've edited, but I've invited different authors to join us to write them. And they're all focused around the different themes of the exhibition. So they sit alongside the exhibition, but it's not a traditional catalogue. So it doesn't cover everything that's in the show, but it does completely complement and also enrich the interpretation of those pieces.
Wonderful. And are you maybe thinking that this might go a tour a little bit afterwards?
Sadly, this one won't be touring. That's something that we have to think long and hard about at the beginning of an exhibition, because we have to approach its development very differently, down to things like how we construct the mannequins. It's honestly the detail that goes into the little things that you have to think about is mind-boggling. But we won't be touring this one on this occasion. But, you know, never say never. We might tour something again in future.
Well, also you have the book and we have you. And so I'm hoping that maybe when you come across here, we might be able to grab you to talk about this fascinating exhibit if we haven't been able to get there, and experience it through your eyes a little bit more. I think this sounds...
That would be a pleasure, but also do keep an eye on our website. We are going to be doing some more digital interpretation around this as well, and that will also be evident on our social media channels. So we'll try and do a bit of filming in the space and be able to sort of invite people into it that way as well. Well,
please keep sharing with us. We would love to know more. And when it opens, maybe we can take a little look inside and see beyond the little black dress. Thank you so much, Georgiana, for joining us today.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thanks very much.
I wanted to speak about something that you also mentioned is coming up, that for anybody who loves textiles, Scotland has so much to offer this summer. And one of the other exhibits that will be going on that we want to highlight is the little black dress that is going to be at the National Museum of Scotland as of July for a few months.
So, yes, that's right.
Can you tell us a little about that, and then before we close?
Of course, thank you. I think, yeah, it's, you know, anybody listening or watching, you know, there is a lot going on in Scotland, and it's if you are thinking about a trip, now is the time. We've got direct flights into Heathrow, and then you can transfer to Dundee, come and stay, and, you know, take a day trip to Edinburgh. The Beyond the Little Black Dress opens Saturday 1st of July to Sunday 29th of October. You can search online for #BeyondLBD. And of course, that starts with the iconic Chanel little black dress, which is still now, you know, de rigueur. And that was really about taking, you know, a maid's uniform and selling it to the aristocrats. That's where the little black dress, Chanel's little silhouette, came from. But what Georgina Ripley, the amazing curator at National Museum Scotland, has done is completely unpack the whole concept. So we've got exploration into Black British designers, the concept of black in colour and in cloth, how it's created. Also, of course, again, the role of the colour in terms of punk, you know. It was black is a sort of synonymous, isn't it? That's the word I'm looking for, as much as tartan. So it's a really interesting time. And then you've got Dovecot Studios in Edinburgh as well, who've got Kay Fassett on at the moment. There's just a lot going on. And then the Fashion Festival is in November.
wonderful. That's the Ayrshire Fiddle Orchestra, who were last in the United States in 2017. But this July, they're visiting 4 southern states and will have a series of concerts happening from the middle of July. And so we are putting up where they're going to be in the coming weeks. And if you have a chance to see them, do. They are fantastic. A young, youthful, wonderful fiddle players. And there were 47 of them that joined us in 2017 on one of the hottest days of the year that year in Lower Manhattan at Bowling Green. So do try to see them. And so now let's journey across to the old town of Edinburgh and visit Dovecot Studios. We're in conversation with Ed Rees, exhibition manager and curator. It's very long overdue, Edward, that we speak to you, because the Dovecot Studios have been known to the American Scottish Foundation for many years. And I visited there before the pandemic, and also we held an event with you. So I feel very bad that we haven't been speaking to you more regularly, because you are so busy, you have so much going on, and it's such a wonderful space. Could you begin by telling everybody a little bit about Dovecot Studios, the history, where it is, and how it came to be?
Of course, it's a pleasure to be speaking to you, I should start by saying. Yes, we're delighted to be a part of your podcast. So Dovecot Studios was founded in 1912, and we were founded by the 4th Marquess of Bute, and we were founded with the express intention of providing tapestries, of making tapestries for the Marquess of Bute's grand stately homes, of which Mount Stuart on the Isle of Bute is a very fine example. And there are still tapestries on display at Mount Stuart that we made for the Marquesses of Bute at the beginning of the 20th century. We were founded by the Marquess of Bute using a couple of weavers who had trained at the William Morris Studios. So our roots very much go back to that arts and crafts tradition that Morris espoused, and that's really where we started. Although over the last 115 years or so, we have of course changed and evolved a great deal. So until the Second World War, that's very much what we were. We were a private concern making tapestries for the Marquesses of Bute. But after the Second World War, the Marquess of Bute's son took us commercial, as it were, and we started producing tapestries on a commercial basis, working either to designs made by artistic directors within the studio or collaborating with contemporary artists. So we've got quite a long history as well of working with cutting-edge contemporary artists, dating right back to the 1940s, and obviously as art has changed, so have our tapestries. When we were founded and until the end of the 20th century, we were based in the west of Edinburgh, in a part of Edinburgh called Corstorphine. But in 2000, that building had to be sold, and we relocated to the heart of Edinburgh's Old Town. So you might know Edinburgh is split into the Old Town and the New Town. The Old Town with its wonderful medieval history, and the New Town, the sort of shining, gleaming new buildings built in the Georgian era on the other side of the city. So we're right in the heart of the Old Town, and we are actually based in an old baths house. In the 19th century, various governments got very concerned about public health, about pandemics, which unfortunately we all know rather too much about after the events of the last few years. So there was a really a sort of big spate of bathhouse building, and we are in a swimming pool, a bathhouse that was built on Infirmary Street in the late 19th century. It worked as a working swimming pool right up until the end of the 20th century, and we still get visitors coming who remember what it was like when it was a swimming pool and remember using the building as a swimming pool, which is always good fun. But it was closed in the 1990s and fell rather into disrepair. So it was something of a happy meeting of needs, that we were looking for a new home, and the bathhouse was looking for sort of restoration and conservation. And we were able to move into the building, which opened in 2008. So our weavers, our current crop of weavers now have this wonderful light studio where the old swimming pool used to be, with huge windows above it. And we were able to have purpose-built event spaces, cafe spaces, a shop, and also exhibition galleries included in the new building, in the renovated building.
Looks
so now,
absolutely as if you've been there for 100 years. I had no idea you hadn't been. You know, it's because it has this wonderful space for your weavers to work and for us to enjoy. And it does not look like it was purpose-built and put together in the last 30 years.
It's a wonderfully sympathetic renovation. And I think there is something very... the union of the bathhouse and the studio, which were founded within... The bathhouse was built only 20 years before the studio was founded. So I think there is a certain synergy there between what we do and the space that we're now in. And I think you're absolutely right that it does look and feel very natural for us to be in this space.
So the wonderful center space is where the weavers are, and people can watch and see them undertaking commissions that they're doing, which you do day to day.
Absolutely, and that's a really important aspect of the building for us, that people are able to come and see the weaving happening. I think so much of sort of artistic production happens behind closed doors in studios. There are lots of very good reasons for that, but we have this fantastic opportunity to sort of lift the lid on what we do and let people come and see for themselves the fantastic work that the weavers do, and the tapestries. Watch the tapestries sort of grow from just the blank plain warp threads, and then watch them build up and up as they add the designs. And we have the balcony gallery, which is above the weaving studio, above what used to be the swimming pool, which is open and sort of free to the public during the sort of 3 hours every day. We don't have it open all the time to give the weavers time to sort of focus very much on their weaving without having people above them. But it's very important to us that for a period every day, people can come in and watch them work.
So from in the coming weeks, and opening, I think, tomorrow, you have two fantastic exhibits. You have a first one that opens in tomorrow, I believe, which is going to be around the landscapes, around the Scottish landscapes. And also after running alongside it will be another one about the women in art, Scottish women in art, from the Fleming collection, if I have that right. And so could you tell us a little bit about those? Because those will run right the way through the festival, and really but they're going to need tickets. They're going to need tickets because, of course, you do keep weaving.
So yes, our balcony display, as you say, is sort of themed around the theme of the Scottish landscape, and that one's actually in our free, on the free balcony space, so people can come see that for free whenever we're open. And it uses it. We're working with 10 sort of early career artists, recent graduates, who have all graduated from various Scottish art schools in the last 5 years. And they're all linked by approaching the Scottish landscape in a whole series of new and inventive ways. So it's very much not just a display of paintings of mountains and fields and rivers and seas. It's it's really pushing the boundaries of what the landscape genre is and means. And I think the thing that really unifies all 10 artists is that they really look at how people interact with the landscape. So all the works are either based on how people have impacted landscape or how the landscape has impacted people, and those might be rural landscapes or urban landscapes or riverscapes. So it's really trying to showcase these new artists and give them a platform, but also push the boundaries a bit of what a landscape is. Our exhibition downstairs in our main exhibition spaces, which opens at the end of July, just before the festival starts. As you say, that's on Scottish women artists, and it covers the last 250 years of Scottish art. using the Fleming Collection's wonderful holdings as a basis for the exhibition. And that exhibition really tries to unpick a bit what it means for these artists to have been working over the last 250 years, and to show how women artists have always been a present factor in Scottish art, and how they have always been heavily involved in Scottish art, and to try and we like to think of it as being an exhibition that tells the story of the last 250 years of Scottish art, and we just so happen to be choosing to use only women artists to do it. We're focusing very much on the quality and the innovation of the art itself rather than the gender of the artists.
So that one the women artists will run through August, and the landscapes and the young new emerging graduates of 10 artists will run through till October. So which is fantastic. And I really hope that we can maybe focus in a little bit, especially around your emerging young artists. I mean, if we can, in the next few weeks, return and do a spotlight and maybe be down in the gallery with you and take a look at some of the works and understand it more, and some of the young people, it would be wonderful, because it isn't just weaving. This is painting, ceramics.
Absolutely. So the Women Artists exhibition does include some tapestries and rugs made by us in collaboration with various artists, but the exhibition on the balcony is painting, sculpture, video art, installations, and it's been curated by an emerging curator called Siobhan McLaughlin, also herself an artist, and I'm sure she'd be delighted to speak to you and take you through some of her decisions and some of the artworks on display.
That's wonderful. So absolutely destination to come to Dovecot, to go online beforehand, absolutely, to make sure you've got the timing right. But it's a wonderful area to be in the old town and around Dovecot. So there's lots to do, and to book your tickets, because it's important to do that.
Certainly for the downstairs galleries, yes, we would encourage booking in advance if possible. So if you go onto our website and into the What's On area, you'll see the opportunity to do that. You'll also find lots of events, both in-person and online events, available, talks, tours, weaving workshops, everything like that. So please do, yes, have a look and see if anything catches your fancy.
And I think they've got such a rich amount of things to discuss with you. I'd love to know more about what you were weaving for Mount Royal for the Marquis of Bute, some of the works and beautiful tapestries you've done for them, and the history to that a little bit more, and also what is going on now to go through this new exhibit that's happening. So thank you for spending a few minutes with us this morning, and for us to be able to share and discover Dovecot Studios.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for joining us today for another episode of The Scots in Us. We bring the programs to you the first and third Monday of the month, and they can be found on all your favorite video and podcast platforms. Our library has over 100 episodes now. We also invite you to become a member of the American Scottish Foundation by going to our website, americanscottishfoundation.com, and clicking on Support Us. There are many different ways to become involved, and we'd love to hear from you and have you a part of the foundation. Thank you for joining us. Till next time.